From Everbank Field in Jacksonville, this is Jaguars.com Live. A weekly look inside the Jacksonville Jaguars organization. Jaguars.com Live starts right now.
Welcome into the HannanyAutos.com studio at Everbank Field. Jaguars.com Live presented by Everbank. JP Shadrick with Jaguars.com senior writer John Oehser.
I'm here whether you like it or not, JP.
Oh, great. Oh, and I like it.
Okay, good.
I like it. Minicamp is well underway. Day 2 of a 3-day mandatory minicamp. They'll wrap it up in front of the public tomorrow just outside of Everbank Field. Jaguars this week. Allen Robinson will be our guest today, Jaguars wide receiver. We'll play a game of this or that with Brian Sexton coming up. And Alex Marvez, Fox Sports 1, FoxSports.com NFL writer. He'll join us on the phone a little bit later. You can get on the show at JP Shadrick, at John Oehser, at Jags Voice, at Jaguars as well. Allen Robinson just came off the practice field a little bit ago. We'll get to him coming up when he gets here. But Blake Bortles talked to the media just minutes ago, actually, and it'll be the last chance really for media to visit with the Jaguars quarterback before the dead period. I guess he seems pretty happy with his progress so far.
Well, and that's sort of the theme this week. You're talking to different guys, and they're wrapping things up. Julius Thomas talked yesterday, and Blake Bortles talked today. Two leaders of the offense, and I think they feel the same way. The offense is in to the point that they're pleased with what they know, but probably not pleased yet with what's going on in the field, which I think is pretty normal. OTAs are very much you're installing for the first time on the field new things each day. So to think that you're going to go out and be perfect against a defense that's really in its third year and there's an awareness on the part of a lot of guys defensively exactly what they need to be doing. Julius Thomas said it best yesterday when he talked about you have to make some mistakes and then come back and do it at high speed and start making plays. I'm paraphrasing, but where the mistakes were. So I think he gets that's the process. I think Blake gets that's the process. And Blake certainly looks like a different guy than this time last year, which you would expect. And you get the idea that he feels like he has put in a good preparing 3 or 4 months of off season to be ready for training camp. I don't think he would tell you he's got it. It's not a work in process. I mean, in our progress, but you would think that he feels very good about the homework, the prep that he's done to be ready for training camp, and that's what he wanted to do over 4 months.
And it's a different mindset for him this year. Remember last year, Chad Henne was the starting quarterback and was going to be the starting quarterback all season. That was the stated plan for this team. That changed a few games into the season last year, but now he's the starting quarterback, and he can prepare as the starting quarterback.
And I forget exactly what he said a second ago, but when you're the starter, then when he was on a couple weeks ago, he said this, it's a little easier to lead. It's a little easier to say things that need to be said when you're in your second year. You've seen, is this the right time to say it? Is this the right week to say it? Do I have the respect in the locker room to say, hey, you on the offensive line, you and the receiver, you need to do this. When you're in your second year, it's a much more comfortable feeling as a quarterback than when you're a rookie, when you sort of know that all the wide receivers, anybody you're telling, hey, you should do this, are probably in the back of their mind going, well, how do you know? So that's gone, and he's definitely the starter. He's definitely the guy. So it is a different kind of quarterback, a different kind of walk that he takes now, and I'm sure you'll see that walk in training camp.
Let's welcome in senior correspondent Brian Sexton for a game we call. We call it.
This or that. This or that.
We call it this or that. Brian Sexton is with us, Jaguars.com senior correspondent. Let's get to the game. We'll talk about some other notes out of the locker room coming up as well.
I think we should start playing this like you do when your kid's like 6 years old, where there's really no score. Everybody gets a trophy.
Fine. I'm okay.
All right.
Participation.
Right.
We'll start over? Let's reset. We'll start
all
over.
get a trophy.
Right.
All right, let's reset before the this is a brand new game. Brand new game before the end of the
I'm sure it'll be much better.
Here we go. Number 1, is Blake better now?
Well, I don't think there's any way that he couldn't be. As I said before, he spent 4 months doing things that He took his body of work from last season and said, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to get better. So I think the mere fact that he had a plan, he followed that plan, that has to give you confidence as a quarterback that I've put in the work necessary. It's much better than sort of being all over the place all off season, listening, not knowing what you wanted to do, and then coming to the training camp. So I think he's better, if nothing else, because he has the confidence of knowing that he put in the work, knowing he's listened to people he trusts, and he looks better. I'm not going to say it's worlds better. I'm not going to say it's a mammoth difference, but he looks better. He's throwing a tighter spiral, and I think you'll see that.
Well, I saw it today. I saw a tighter spiral today, and for most of the OTAs, he looked like he had improved, right? At the things that we can tell right now, which is why I want to put the great big question mark up and go, all right, so how about decision-making? Because we won't know that until we get to the preseason.
Right.
Last year he had those 4 pick sixes, and the one against the Steelers was particularly troublesome because it came when the game was still, the outcome was still there for them to take.
I think that's maybe where the body of work
comes into play.
Comes into helping the decision-making. You may feel differently.
Well, no, I do. Yeah, you were talking before I sat down about his comfort level and the walk that he's walking now. Yeah, all of that has to. I see no way that he can't be better, but I want to see the decision-making, and I can't see that until August. So
right, and I probably won't realistically until the regular season. Remember, he was very good in preseason, all the right reads, all the right throws. When the things get live and when they're tricking, that's where you'll see better decision-making. You'll see the difference in decision-making.
I spoke at the Oceanside Rotary Club yesterday and got the question, and how many young players were there really on the field last year? When you started going through the lineup, rookie quarterback, rookie offensive line, rookie receivers.
It's been a long speech.
Oh, man. Well, yeah, it was one of my best.
Even aside from that.
It was one of my best. But when you start factoring in, the offensive line, which was young, with the quarterback was young, and the receivers who were young, what were your chances of getting on the same page last year?
Right.
So all of that said, I expect that he'll be better. We'll see what the decision says.
First point to Sexton because
I kept talking.
He kept talking, and that's what public speakers do. You just keep talking.
Right.
That's what happens.
Eventually, I just wear you down.
Eventually.
Number 2, this vacation coming up, in air quotes, a few weeks off for the players, but is it a rest period or is it a workout period for these guys?
Well, I think there should be a lot of rest involved because NFL players' bodies at some point need time to recuperate. It sounds like Blake and the receivers are going to get together a little bit. It sounds like Gus wants them being in shape, and I get that. But there is also a time where this was not designed to be a 12-month-a-year sport, so bodies need rest. I say you need to rest.
And I say you need to keep working. Blake just got done in the locker room. You guys were there. You heard him say, anytime I'm not in 105-degree heat and I'm in the air conditioning, that is rest. They're not going to be out in the field cutting and pushing and doing all of those things you do in camp. I'm just of the mindset that you always better be working to get better. And Bortles and the young receivers have room to grow. And so use this time wisely. And they will. They're going to get some vacation time in, but keep working.
Well, it's a rest period, and from former players around here, they said later in the season.
This point. He's starting to lay out his rationale. Have you noticed that?
You know what? John wins that point. That's all I'm going to say. Let's go to question number 3. Ooh, this is a good one. Vacations. Are you a beach guy or a mountain guy for vacation?
I'm definitely a mountain guy. You can see by the skin. I don't tan. I stroke. So to borrow Woody Allen line. So I go to the mountains whenever I can.
I'm going to be on the Wyoming-Idaho border in 41-degree temperatures at night as long as I possibly can.
On the beach? Oh, no.
There's a little beach there.
That famous Wyoming.
But you live at the beach, though.
I do, so I don't need to go there.
So I go to the beach.
I don't need to go there. No, I got to get out of this heat. We're going to be out in it all of August. I got to get out of it. So I'm headed for the Grand Tetons and the cool mountain air. See you.
Bragging a little bit, so he loses. John Oehser with the win today. How about that? Congratulations.
Apparently,
to you, John.
I can't.
Because you dropped the Woody Allen line.
Yeah,
and I give that one to you, too. Right. Because it stumped me. Apparently, I can't leave at this moment for the mountains. But
not yet. Yeah. Soon, my friend.
I thought you left last week.
Yeah, so did I.
Oh, wow. Chris Clemens back. We talked a little bit about this on Inside the Jags yesterday, that the noise around it, you expected it his first day back, but it never was a huge story to begin with, missing the voluntary work. He's here now, certainly not a story today.
Yeah, I just don't get wrapped up in what guys are doing and where they are in May. Maybe it's because I remember too well when you barely knew what was going on in May. So if the guy's ready, if the guy's preparing, I covered the Colts for a long time. Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne were never there. Edgerrin James was never there. It worked out okay. If a guy is a veteran guy and knows what he's doing, if you don't prepare and you're not ready, then you're not going to be in the league very long. Chris Clemens has been in the league a long time, so I'm assuming he knows how to prepare. Maybe he'll prove us wrong this year, but I don't think so.
If Dante Fowler Jr. had been practicing the last couple of weeks for the OTAs, it wouldn't have even been a story.
Right.
That's true. There you have it. Well done, Brian.
Now I can leave for the mountains.
Now you can leave now. How about that? Mandatory minicamp closes up tomorrow. Come see the Jags for the last time before the dead period. 11 a.m. start, 1:20 p.m. finish. Free parking available. Register for a free ticket. Jaguars.com/veteran minicamp. And come see the Jags tomorrow in the scorching heat. And the guy who's been running around in the scorching heat is with us now, Allen Robinson. It is hot, right?
Yeah, it's pretty hot. I mean, it's the hottest that it's been since I've been here, so it's pretty hot.
I sweat just watching you guys work. That's how hot it is.
Yeah, it's hot out there.
Yeah.
Now, is it something that you have to sort of figure out how to deal with?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, for me, I made the adjustment last year, but I mean, it definitely was different, for me not really being from the South or being from down here playing in this type of heat. So, I mean, for those first few weeks, it took me a little bit of time to get adjusted to it.
I talked to you in January, and I've been impressed ever since with your approach coming out. You were hurt at the time and couldn't really get on the field, but you had such a look in your eye and such a plan laid out for what you wanted to accomplish this offseason. Tell me a little bit about what you did before you got on the field for OTAs mentally.
For me, I think it was just watching a lot of football, seeing how a lot of these receivers in the game, how they are successful. I think that's the main thing is, how to be successful. I mean, you can't just go out there and be successful without a plan or without seeing, and studying players who have been successful in this league. So, I mean, for me, I took Coach Sullivan's coaching, and I took my mental reps and stuff like that this offseason, and then as well looked at a lot of different perspectives of the receiver position, and I think that has helped me out a lot.
Are you back to 100% speed now?
Yeah, I would say so. I'm back to 100%.
And but they're still working back like rep by rep. You're not getting like a full dose of reps right now.
Yeah, for sure. This week and the end of last week was probably the most reps that I've gotten, but it's been fun getting out there. So, at the same time, just making sure I'm still taking care of my body and things like that, but I am starting to take the full workload.
Being around young players, it's interesting when they start to figure out sort of who they are and that they can play in this league. It seemed last week when you had some big catches in OTAs and were going up after the ball, high pointing it, I guess, is the receivers. Hey,
nice
football 101.
Nice job. Nice terminology.
Are you starting to figure out what you can be in this league and sort of the style of receiver that you think you can be?
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, this offseason, I think that was a big thing for me. It's just, understanding the difference between college and play, in the NFL. It's a different style of play. I think that's the main thing. So, you do have to adapt your game, to the NFL style. Some players are just able to come in the NFL, and adjust very quickly, and some of them, for me, as the year progressed last year, I started getting a little bit of a groove, started to get the hang of it a little bit. So, in this year, I kind of knew what to expect, I knew where I had my success at last year, and I also knew what my weaknesses were and how I had to improve those coming into this year.
Now, Gus talked today. I mean to interrupt you, JP.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
Said he's talked to you some about playing angry. Now, that's a great quote from Gus. What does that mean to you?
For sure. That's something that I think that I didn't do as much as I did in college last year. In college, I always had a chip on my shoulder. But so coming in last year, I kind of relaxed a little bit, but I'm back on it this year. So and another thing for me, a lot of people say, with us having young receivers and stuff, that I'm kind of the vet this year, but I'm still learning from a lot of the guys. Probably me still being probably the youngest receiver in the room. So I'm still learning from a lot of guys.
just turned 22, right? Isn't
No,
it?
not yet. I'm still a couple months out from being
all
22.
Right. I got you.
Well, take us through that receiver room. It's a group that kind of came in all together. Marquise hasn't been working out this camp, but Alan Hearns has stepped up again. But it's that trio kind of makes that room, right? And how close are you guys?
I'll say that we were really close. I think last year that's something as well. We were really close knit group. So this year, with us having everybody, for the most part throughout the course of the offseason, with the additions of Rashad, and Neil. So with the addition of those guys, but besides that, I think we're a real close knit group.
I know you're a social media guy, right?
Yeah.
What's your Twitter handle?
D_AR15 THEE _AR15.
Got it. Okay. And then you're on Instagram too?
Yeah. Same thing.
Okay, on Instagram. We have some Instagram questions for you today.
Okay.
So get ready. These are all over the board.
Okay.
You ready? Cody Murcat, 26, asking, what do you consider your big asset, and what part of your game needs the most improvement?
I would say for me, I'm a decent sized receiver, but I think I'm pretty versatile as far as bringing my size and quickness to the game, and then for me, I really want to get better at high pointing some of those deep balls as far as in the field, not so much the red zone, but as far as when you're just running routes in the field, it's a different catch point when you're catching those balls, trying to high point some deep posts and things like that.
This next question from OTF_Chad asking, who's the hardest corner to get open against? And I'm guessing it's on this team, but this could be a deep answer for you. It'll be interesting to see how you answer this question.
I would say that we have, a pretty versatile secondary. We have a lot of size and speed out there, So, each day with those guys, they push you to the limit, So each day is a battle with everyone out there.
That's like the most PR answer ever. Come on, man.
Hey, you gotta.
I'm kidding with you, of course. Let's move on down the line here. This one's way off the board. Just bear with us here. Dane Q asking, what makes you most like a real Jaguar? I don't know where this question comes from. I don't know what it means.
I would just say my competitive nature. I'm not too much into the nature of a Jaguar and stuff, but with it being a wild animal, I'm pretty sure it has to go out there and compete.
They're rushing us off, but is there a new dunk tape coming?
Nah, I haven't been on the court in a while, especially with this off season and stuff, getting back healthy, so it may be a little minute. It may be a good little while.
Guess what, Alan?
What?
I don't have a dunk video.
But mine's may take a little while.
Alan, appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
Alan Robinson,
Thank you.
Jaguars wide receiver, joining us on Jaguars.com Live, presented by Everbank. Season tickets. Come and get them. Get more in 2015. Become a season ticket member and get access to amazing benefits all year round. Great seating options are available for any budget. Visit Jaguars.com/tickets or call and speak to an account manager today at 633-2000. JP Shadrick, John Oehser, Jaguars.com Live, presented by Everbank.
And speaking of dunk videos, we got Alex Marvez coming on, right?
Alex Marvez, FoxSports.com, Fox Sports 1, joins us over the phone line right now. How is your dunk tape going, Alex?
Oh, it's fabulous, fabulous. I'm seriously, I got about 3 inches of vertical, and that's when I jump off the box stove. That's the whole thing. Yeah.
You had a story a couple of days ago about a question for each team going into this minicamp period. And I think your question about the Jaguars was about Clemens and would he show up? Well, he's here now. So what's the next question for the Jaguars for you?
Well, it's interesting. How do you replace Dante Fowler Jr. in the pass rush? And, it's hard to expect, how much is a rookie going to be able to contribute right away? But, you got to figure as a number 3 overall pick in the draft and someone who was so successful at the University of Florida generating pressure, he was so active. That's the thing that, Dante Fowler Jr. jumped out on tape to you because he was always moving. He was Energizer Bunny-like, and now he's gone. So who's going to help? Now, of course, you got Dan Skuta, who's, was signed and can play the auto spot, and, he's a good player. What I was encouraged by, though, and I talked to Leroy Reynolds about this the other day, that, Skuta is sitting there and helping him with special teams techniques. For example, hand placement on how to, on special teams, how to be able to shed blockers and be able to be more efficient in your style. And we all know Leroy is one of the very best special teams players, in the league. I mean, he led the Jags in tackles with 10 last year on special teams. So he's showing him some things, and we know that Reynolds struggled last year. He got benched, but maybe he's going to be able to grow because Scuda is trying to help him become a better player. He's being a great teammate. But Chris Clemons obviously a key part of this because they need to generate that pass rush. Hey, look, we got a lot of questions about the Jags, unfortunately. You know, who's going to carry the running game? Is T.J. Yeldon ready to go? And I'll tell you what, I loved what Shoelace did last year. You know, Denard Robinson made a great transition. Is he a complimentary back? Is he a number one back? You know, how is things going to go for Toby Gerhart this year as he makes a transition to H-back? But I love the tight end acquisitions, keeping Mercedes Lewis, one of the very best blockers in the game, to go with Julius Thomas, a tremendous red zone threat. I think that's a positive. And, of course, though, all of this depends on the development of one Blake Bortles.
How does that get judged this year, Alex?
How does it? Say it again, I'm sorry.
Well, the Blake Bortles, you know, how do you – it's still a young offense. Sort of from a national perspective, we'll be judging it every day, of course, but what will you look for 8 games in? Where do you want to see Blake if you're saying, okay, this guy's starting to get it?
Turnover ratio. He was starting to get a little bit better last season, right, as time went on. And do you remember the grand plan in Jacksonville that we were not going to rush Blake Bortles on the field and going to be patient with Chad Henne? Do you remember that plan?
Yes.
Yes, we do, Alex.
Yeah, it didn't really last too long, unfortunately. And, you know, Blake Bortles was thrown to the wolves a bit. And I understand Chad wasn't playing well, but I think Jags management got fooled a little bit by what Blake Bortles showed him in the preseason and thought, wow, maybe this kid is ready to go now. And he took his lumps. And you know, if you keep turning the ball over and you throw pick sixes, well, you're not going to win very many games. And the Jags didn't win that many games last year. So I think that's really the biggest thing I'm looking for. But what I love about this Jags team are having the nucleus of young players that Blake Bortles is going to grow up with. You know, you just had Allen Robinson on. You know, obviously Marquise Lee. You got Allen Hurns. You have young talent, and these guys you would hope are eventually going to be like what ended up happening in some ways with Aaron Rodgers. He grew up with some of the young wide receivers, Jordy Nelson, for example, in Green Bay, and then players come and go in free agency. But, you know, that chemistry is there, and I think that's one of the things that I think is a real positive for this Jags team. Of course, the offensive line has to show some improvement. That was a really young group last year. I know Purnell was signed in free agency from Dallas. He should make an impact. And what are we going to get from Luke Jokel in year 3? I mean, let's be honest. The 2013 draft class isn't exactly going to remind anyone of what the Steelers did in 1974, picking 4 Hall of Famers. It was a mess early on in that draft, and I understand the Jags thinking, okay, let's try to get that franchise left tackle. The big question now, is Luke Jokel that franchise left tackle? Will he be big enough? Will he be durable enough? And will he be good enough to man that spot? A lot of pressure, I think, on Luke to step up in year 3.
And, Alex, that draft class you're talking about is the whole league, right? It's not just Jacksonville. Yeah. I mean, that's everybody, almost the whole first round. There's not many starters left, right?
Well, it's, you know, just like when you start off with Eric Fisher, you know, and that's been a mess. And, you know, Andy Reid can say what he wants, how he wants to mix and match different players at different positions. And, you know, but when you have a player like that sitting during your training camp, you know, or during your mini camp, rather, your OTAs, and you're giving Donald Stevenson first-team reps, is Philadelphia doing that with Jason Peters? Is Dallas doing that with Tyron Smith? Heck no. You know, those are franchise players, and I think it was meant to maybe send a message to Eric Fisher that he needs to continue to get better. And, of course, we look at the disastrous quarterback class. We'll see how Geno Smith does in the second round. But, you know, E.J. Manuel, and you know, what a mess that situation is in Buffalo. He is just not right now truly in the mix to be a starter. I mean, Matt Castle and Tyrod Taylor have started to differentiate themselves already in this competition. So you look back at that class, the first quarterback's not taken until the 16 overall pick, and you have those 2 tackles going early, and those were projects. Yeah, 2013 was rough. Taking
Tom Brady being out for the first 4 games out of the equation, what's the biggest stories you're going to look for in training camp next year? You're a national guy, you know, Alex.
Well, Adrian Peterson, I think that's just one to follow simply because, you know, I talked to Kyle Rudolph last night, their tight end, and it was like this dark cloud lifted in Minnesota with Adrian Peterson's return. And I just wonder, though, Adrian has a way of expressing himself. We could say, to say the least, will he say something about his contract during the preseason? You know, will he be, you know, I'm just curious about this one as his you know, off-season develops, or, you know, obviously preseason, and whether or not he'll get that guaranteed money and he can come to that agreement with the Vikings. That's a positive. I'm also curious about these franchise players. Is Des Bryant going to follow through on his threat to potentially miss the Week 1 opener against the Giants and protest to not getting his contract? There are 4 franchise players currently unsigned, Demaryius Thomas, Jason Pierre-Paul as well, and Justin Houston these guys aren't showing up for their mini camps this week. Well, are they going to show up? Are they going to sign the franchise tender or not? And if they don't get that deal done by July 15th, they cannot sign a long-term contract with their respective teams until the 2016 offseason. You can't negotiate a deal or anything. So I think I'm just very curious to see how that plays out. And if those guys are on one-year tenders, how long will they wait to end up signing?
When will we see Alex Marvez in training camp? Or will we?
The SiriusXM NFL Radio training camp tour will be coming to Jacksonville, and it's looking like Gil Brand and I will probably be doing those shows. I would say, usually we mesh you guys in. We figure out how to work in the Jags because we love coming to Jacksonville. We got to just figure it out. I would say mid-August is when we will be there, and I'm very fired up about coming because I think this will be a better Jags team. The big question is how much ground can they make up in what I think, I don't want to say is a wide-open AFC South, but can you make ground up on Houston? I still think this team can be better than Tennessee. I don't think there's a question about that. How much better? Hoping for some nice progress this year in Jacksonville.
Alex Marvez might be the hardest working man in show business. I think he does. Okay.
Yeah.
But we appreciate your time today either way, Alex.
Alex, thanks, buddy.
Guys.
Alex Marvez, FoxSports.com. Fox Sports 1 joining us. Join us tomorrow night, Jaguars Thursday Radio. Tony Baselli, Jeff Lageman, me, 6 to 7 p.m. Tomorrow at 6, 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Good show.
Your boy, Alex Marvez.
Great guy. One of the
Always
best.
a great guy, and it'll be cool to see those guys here coming up during training camp. That'll do it for our show today. Our thanks to Alan Robinson for joining us. Brian Sexton, the gracious Brian Sexton joining us.
And we'll see everybody tomorrow at the open practice for minicamp. Should be good.
That's right. Jaguars.com/veteran minicamp to get those free tickets for tomorrow. For John Oehser and everyone involved, this is JP Shadrick. We'll see you next week. Jaguars.com Live, presented by Everbank.